community on plans moving forward in terms of COVID-19 guidelines on Augustana's campus. We will provide you an update on COVID-19 testing and Augustana's alert levels system. Let's start by welcoming Steve.
And I want to do this in working with us to keep Augustana as safe as possible. We owe the campus community abundant thanks for the way you have worked together to keep Augustana open and thriving. And thank you to our local public health officials for the guidance they've given to Augustana College over these past weeks and months. The Augustana College Board of Trustees, faculty, and administration joins me in saying that we are proud of your cooperation, commitment, and teamwork at Augustana College. And as I bestow thanks and praise, I want to add that this is not a time to slow down on our practices. It is not a time to ease up in our commitments. It's simply not a time to become complacent and relax our efforts to keep each other safe. We must be persistent. It is in times like this that I'm reminded of the wise words of Aristotle. We are, he said, what we repeatedly do. Excellence then is not an act, but a habit. Care for our classmates, faculty, and staff during these COVID times is what we must repeatedly do. Responsibility to others is not an isolated act, but instead the habit of wearing masks, maintaining physical distancing, and washing our hands is what will define our commitment to each other. And we must continue to keep our circle of friends that we interact with small. Keep parties, if you must, very small, so we can remain safe. Over the past month, you have shown you can do these things because we are in a better position at Augustana than many colleges because of what you've done. So now I come to you, students, faculty, and employees, to ask you to remain vigilant. Don't let up. It's not letting up. Students want to stay on this campus to live classes until Thanksgiving. I do too. Take all of us working together to achieve that important objective. What you have done to this point defines Augustana College. Working together. Now I'd like to turn matters over to Dean of Students, Dr. Wes Brooks.
Following Monday. Both students and employees participate in the surveillance testing program here at Augustana College. Through the testing, we've identified 5 positive cases, 1 inconclusive test, and 1,162 negative tests thus far. Since it is surveillance testing, that means that we test the same group of people every Tuesday of the month for that month. This allows us to be more confident in monitoring the spread or the lack of spread on campus based on the consistency of who we're testing. As we aim to monitor spread, we look to make sure students, faculty, and other employees represent various areas of campus. We ensure students and faculty from many areas of study are tested, as well as many different residence halls and transitional living areas. We are making sure that both students in the fine arts and student athletes are also being tested. And nearly 70 members of the Greek life community have been part of the September surveillance testing group. As expected, we have seen a small uptick in cases the longer we are in school this year. While the number of cases is still relatively small, with each presumed case comes a flurry of activity that results in students being temporarily sequestered, sometimes quarantined, and still, while less frequently, also isolated. Our team of tracers shared this data with me. Currently, with COVID-19 test, there are 8 of those 13 in isolation. 6 are new positive cases. In addition, 74 individuals are in quarantine because they have had close contact with someone who is symptomatic or with someone who had a positive COVID-19 test, though they themselves have not tested positive and are not symptomatic. 42 of those 74 are in quarantine housing on campus, either in alternate space or quarantining in place, and 32 are quarantining off campus. And finally, we have 0 students who are sequestering as of this morning. That would indicate that they have had close contact with a suspected but unconfirmed case, and we have 0 students at this time. This sequester number is very good news, as the sequester number can quickly elevate to a quarantine number if test results are still pending and they come back positive. That is not the case as of today because we have 0 students sequestered at this time. 50 of those in isolation and quarantine are currently on campus in total, and 37 others have gone home or off campus during their quarantine or isolation time period. At this time, these numbers do not warrant a change in our operations. And I want to mention the college's alert level system. I've received a few questions over the last week about it, and I want to be sure our community is aware of the document and what it means. The alert level document identifies the factors that the President's Cabinet monitors on a frequent basis to determine if there is a need to change the way we operate. Some of those factors include, but are not limited to, positivity rate, quarantine capacity, and the number of daily new cases on campus. That alert level document can be found on the COVID response webpage on the Augustana website. There are 4 alert levels, with level 1 being a low risk, new normal environment, and level 4 being a high risk environment. The academic year began at Augustana College at an operational level 2 alert, and we are currently operating under that same alert level. To be proactive while in level 2, we have implemented some level 3 COVID mitigation requirements, and we're hopeful our efforts will allow us to remain at a moderate alert level 2. But we must also be prepared to change our operations as the situation requires. And as President Ball said, these numbers should further our resolve to take all of the precautions related to prevent the spread of COVID-19. So to do so, we are keeping all campus guidelines and rules in place at this time that we've lived with during the first 4 weeks of the semester. The most recent guidance that was shared last week with students is important and new to these live briefings, and that is this. We are asking you to tighten the pods and clusters of people you gather with. Keep your close friend group small. With our uptick in quarantine numbers, contact tracing indicates that has been primarily through close social interactions among individuals in small groups of 3 to 4 people, often those who live together, eat together, or meet together. There is 0 evidence that the small uptick in cases is due to large parties or due to interactions in the classroom. As you can imagine, 3, 4, or 5 small groups of people any one particular individual interacts with regularly can create as much exposure as larger group gatherings. So please be mindful how wide you cast the net of your friend groups and pods of people. Choosing to eat with the same 3 people daily for all meals, or only riding in a vehicle across campus with the same 1 or 2 people all the time, can limit exposure and will reduce the likelihood of community spread on campus. In reverse, I'm sure you can understand how exercising with different people every day or eating with 3 different people at each meal daily can elevate your exposure, their exposure, and the exposure they have with others. So please think about your daily habits and traditional activities and identify if there are ways you can reduce the number of people you come in contact with. Reduce the number of small groups you're a part of. In addition to tightening up your clusters, I'd like to reiterate other existing expectations that we've had in place the entire time. We ask that students first stay on campus as much as possible, continuing to limit your visits home and or to places in the Quad Cities. Next, limit the number of guests in your residence hall rooms. Please do not have more than 1 guest in a residence hall room at any time. Third, Group gatherings that are not directly sponsored by the college must remain no larger than 10 people. As has been the case since the start of the academic year, violations of the group gathering rule will result in immediate interim disciplinary action, including but not limited to the need to quarantine. The fourth reminder is that the restriction on going to the district remains in place. We would ask that students not attend the district at this time. And the fifth and final one is that students going to restaurants and other public venues should use outside space only. As I conclude, please let me do so with gratitude and thanks. Please know that I join President Balls in feeling proud of you and our campus community and what it means to be Augustana Strong. On or before October 12th, we will host an additional communication briefing. We want to make sure you have a clear and ongoing sense of how things are continuing on campus and how your help is needed. I hope everyone has a great evening, and thanks.